Is the Gulf region's migrant worker system a modern-day form of slavery? Countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the UAE have successfully invested decades of profits from oil exports into building diversified economies less reliant on oil. They've largely succeeded in Dubai, where oil exports are now less than 1% of the GDP, and real estate megaprojects have made it an international business hub. But under the shiny facade of super-tall skyscrapers lies an exploitative dark side. 90% of the Qatar and the UAE's populations are foreign nationals, and most of them are migrant workers from India, Bangladesh, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Pakistan. Many end up working in construction. Often poor and unemployed in their hometowns, or attracted to the higher wages, migrants choose to work in the Gulf region to send money home to their families. They apply through what's called the kafala system, which literally translates to the adoption of children. The kafala system is governed by federal laws and empowers employers to sponsor migrants to enter the country, obtain a residence, and work under a contract. However, many employers legally bind migrants into a vicious cycle of abuse. Some migrants immediately go into thousands of dollars of debt to pay for their initial transit to the Gulf region. Once there, they would sleep in overcrowded and unsanitary labor camps. In Dubai, the Burj Khalifa was built with 22 million man-hours by hundreds of thousands of migrant workers. On any given day, about 12,000 workers were on site working 12-hour days and getting paid between $4 to $8 per day. Many employers withheld wages for months or didn't even pay them. Migrants who attempted to escape the abuse were faced with a horrid truth. The employers withheld the workers' passports, barring them from going home. But even if they could leave, they wouldn't be able to afford tickets. And the employment contracts forbid them from switching employers. Even worse, if they got sick, medical care would put them into more debt. Although construction-related deaths were minimal, one report found that an average of nearly 6,000 migrants died every year in the UAE. More recently in Qatar, there was very little transparency on how thousands of migrant workers died throughout the construction of the FIFA World Cup infrastructure. Even though most migrants are under the age of 40, many of the deaths were attributed to either natural causes or unknown causes. In March 2006, approximately 2,500 workers rioted and caused nearly $1 million of damages and delayed the Burj Khalifa's construction schedule. Although the strike was settled, very little progress has been made since. The migrants are not citizens and have no voting rights, and unionizing is illegal. While many of the employer behaviors are illegal under UAE laws, they're simply not enforced. In 2006, only 140 government inspectors were responsible for overseeing the labor practices of over 240,000 employers. Despite all of this, since most migrant workers remit their wages to their families in their home countries, the kafala system facilitates the transfer of over $100 billion a year from the Gulf region to poorer countries. These countries' economies are heavily reliant on remittances from migrant workers. History is rife with examples of slavery and indentured servitude building countries' infrastructures. Do you think this can be fixed? Here's one possible solution, although the results may end up hurting the workers and their home country economies even more. Construction robotics and general-purpose humanoids powered by AI with near-human-level intelligence will eventually be able to perform most of the work performed by migrant workers. Companies like Boston Dynamics, Tesla, and Figure are planning on mass-producing general-purpose robots within the next few years. And the wealthy Gulf region companies can afford legions of them as they gradually become ubiquitous and cheaper over the next 2 decades. In fact, they'll be cheaper than paying, feeding, and housing migrant workers. But of course this won't just affect the kafala system. It will affect labor markets around the world. And we may reach levels of inequality beyond anything we've seen in history. Are you worried about your job now? If we find a balanced coexistence with robots in the workforce, what kind of jobs do you think humans will have?